Okay, and so this is Thursday, the 14th, August 14th, and uh, the Jung Types Bingo um, meeting, and it's going to be Jens Windeleff is going to present about the handwriting of Carl Jung that's based on his book and of people that were associated with him. And I wanted to just do a really brief introduction before you got started. And just the that Jens is a Jungian-oriented graphologist, a child drawing analyst, former chairman of the Association of Danish Graphologists, and member of the board of Jungian Society, Copenhagen. And I wanted to point out that there's a distinction, he talks about in the book the classic as opposed to what you might call the contemporary or the Myers-Briggs, both the way it's talked about and how the symbols that are used. Although it's for people that are not real familiar with type, it may not seem distinctive, but people that are like very into type, they see nuances in the differences. But his chapter, and I have a handout. If you don't have this handout, I can be forwarding it to you after. It's his chapter on the concept of character that really explains what characterology is and its relationship to Jungian's theory of the whole self. Very distinctly different from the positivist psychology, the reductionist psychology of personality traits. And yeah, that's it. And there was one other thing so I'll be putting my email in the chat. If you don't have the handout of the table of type that shows the difference in the symbols between the classic and the contemporary way of representing the functions and the kind of the dominant and counter-dominant functions, then that table gives you a really clear for all of the 16 personality types. And that he's put together. It's very, very useful. And then his excerpt from the chapter on the concept of character, and I can send those to you. So that'll be in the, I'll put that into the chat here in a minute. I wanted to just mention, I've been reading it. I'm almost through. I want to tell you my impression of this halfway through the book. I had been curious to see from we've had how people have used in The Power of the Pen. There are some essays that talk about several handwriting samples, and they kind of go through the family history. And I found that really interesting because it was like how to intersperse talking about the handwriting and then the character related to it, and then interspersing it with how the handwriting sample itself this is the best I've ever seen. It flows like a novel. And for graphologists, it's like the way he intersperses the handwriting, kind of the history related to the biography, relationship to Carl Jung, and all of the different characters involved, really, and then describing the handwriting in a way that you can see its relationship to the development of type. Not really technical. I mean, just in the common language that graphologists use to describe handwriting. Everyone would recognize this. And then to follow that with like very succinct kind of description of the character, but not just that, how that that person, how they would interact with Jung, and kind of how there have been questions. I mean, there are oodles of biographies of Jung, big ones and little ones, and his own. There's so much. It's a whole library, really. It's a big library of stuff. So there's so
who's
much
the author? Who's the author?
Oh, I mean, there's like libraries of biographies of Jung. I'll send you some of the.
Okay, who is the author of that one?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Jens Windeleff. He is going to be presenting about the handwriting of Jung from this book, and his colleagues, but how that relationship and how they affected each other from under, and how there are questions in the history and the biographies of these people about that are cleared up by seeing the handwriting.
Yeah,
That's why it's a fascinating.
Okay, thank you, Victor.
Yeah, sorry, I'll let you go. Get going.
I think it's important when we are speaking about graphology that we have the whole context with us.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I made such a disposition there. So should I begin now?
Yes, please. That was
okay. So. So
okay.
Here we start. As you may be, you know, he was born in 75, so he should be 150 years old today. And there's a great conference in Zurich this summer in this occasion. Here you have my first handwriting when he's only 23 years old. And as you can see, it's a sort of young professor handwriting.
Yes, beautiful.
Very, very clear and with very good form, good elasticity in the strokes, and I think he's clearly a thinking type here, maybe with intuition as a secondary function. I would say here that Carol Jung made in her book about what is called personality and projections. She has a very fine chapter about the history of Jung's typology, and also the debate, the discussion about Jung's own typology as it developed over the years. One of my old teachers was focused on some artistic elements in the handwriting here, and she mentioned also they could be associated with some vanity, but I think it's more an sort of aesthetic talent, as we see in his many colorful and very delightfully paintings in his Red Book, for example. Well, his career started in the famous Burghölzli psychiatric hospital in Zurich, in Switzerland, and here we have his boss, the famous Eugen Bleuler. It's a very interesting handwriting because it's very little, but very cursive, slant to the right. So it's very difficult to check out his psychological type here. There's the little handwriting points to introversion, but the cursive handwriting points to extroversion. I think it's a problem about his main function and his assistant function. He could very much be an introvert with extroverted feeling as a helping function. In any case, he was famous in the way he treated schizophrenics, because as a Jung, he was very analytical and introspective. Bleuler, he worked with his patient with clay and wood and the garden and all sort of social tasks and so on. I think this is in his. You will see this in his right slant handwriting. I mentioned some of his surroundings because it's very clear that Jung developed in a dialogue with his surrounding. Here we have him as a very young doctor. He was very tall, 1 meter and 90 centimeters, I think. Here we have him 4 years later. And you see the rhythm is a little flossy here. I think the elasticity is also relative bad. And at that time, he worked with parapsychology. He had a half cousin, Helen Preiswerk, who was a medium. And I think that his introspection in all these things may have some impact on Jung. And there's another possibility, that is Otto Gross. I think we have him here. You see, you notice the similarity of Jung and Otto Gross. Otto Gross was originally a Freudian patient. Freud sent Gross to Jung to cure him for his. He was half psychotic, but on the other hand, Jung and Otto they understood each other very much, and some had called them spiritual twins. But he was very inflated. He didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he ate only vegetables, but he used a lot of drugs. And moreover, he and his wife were involved in a lot of sex orgies with Freudians. So he was a very outflipped man. and Jung, Freud sent Gross to Jung because he should cure him, but he didn't succeed. Gross ended his life on the streets of Berlin. He died very young. But he worked together with Jung about typology. And in fact, the first concept of extroversion is due to Otto Gross. So maybe he is extroverted. Here we have Freud, and you see this very hard angles. He's a man you need to be friend with. He's not a good man to be in opposition to. In fact, when some years after Freud and Jung broke, Freud read the typology of Jung as one of the first persons, and he called it a work of a mystic and a snob. So he was very hard, and you see the very hard strokes here. Nevertheless, Jung had the opinion that Freud was a feeling type. He estimated Freud to be introverted feeling in his private life and extroverted feeling type in his professional life. So for Jung, he was not so schematic. The theme of being introverted or extroverted with the same function. That's part of Jung's flexibility. That's not part of the Myers-Briggs typology. In Myers-Briggs, you have the opposite function in the helping attitude. Here you have Jung in his farewell letter to Freud, and you see how clear it is compared to this very chaotic. Maybe you could call it chaotic. I think Jung was very happy to be very clear. He demonstrated his brilliance with a certain self-confidence to Freud. Freud never forgot all these things. He was very hard feeling about the bro, and when I think it was in 39 or 38 or 39, a delegation with Jung and some others went to Vienna in an offer to guide Freud to London out of the Nazis. And Freud, he said, no, I won't take any help from my enemies. So that's what his temper. As I said, the surroundings to Jung was very essential for him. One of the women was Sabina Spielwein. I think many of you have heard about her. She was a schizophrenic patient, but Jung cured her, and they fall in love. And as you can see, she has a lot of what the German would call Leidenschaft, and she's a very passionate woman. And there was a lot of drama there because it shouldn't be public known because falling in love with the patient wasn't a good style in those days. And Sabina Spielwein's mother was furious when he heard that the Jung was falling in love with Sabina, and Jung answered that this love affair was after the therapy, and if she had another opinion, she could send him a bill and he would send her a bill, and then she could pay if she meant it was in the therapeutic circumstances. Here you have Jung's letter to Freud about Sabina. They corresponded about her because Freud knew Sabina Spielrein. And here you see Jung's handwriting a little more impulsive, a little more disturbed. The written is a little disturbed, but he still it's very coherent, his handwriting. So he knew very much where his goals were. I'm not able to show more than this. So we go to Maria Moltzer, was called Swester Moltzer, as a Sister Moltzer. She was one of the closest collaborators to Jung about psychology and typology. And I think she was the one who mentioned intuition as a function. Jung was not at that time. He operated only with thinking and feeling and sensation. I think Maria Moltzer was the one who got that up on the table. She is, you see, she's also very coherent, and it's a very firm written. She was known to be at heart discussing type, and she was angry about Jung's. He didn't recognize her contribution, so she left and said, "Okay, I won't be in this shadow here. I want to be recognized for my contribution." That was a problem with some of Jung's friends in that time. And here we have Jung's letter to Maria. In fact, they probably also had a love affair. And here you see Jung's fantastic, coherent handwriting. Some of the words are almost written in one word. But the form is good, but the written is bad. I think the break with Freud has influenced on his balance. Actually, it was not only all these women he was married with. Emma. Yeah, we have her as a very young person and as old, very gifted woman. And the most famous of Jung's Jungfrauen, as they were called, is Toni Wolff. In fact, she became his second wife in a way, and she died very early, I think with 60 years, something like that. He worked very close with Toni Wolff, together with his wife. So everyone had to accept that Toni was his second wife, and it was very hard for Emma Jung to live with that. But as we'll come back to, the very close connection with Toni, it was from 1913 to I think 35 or something like that. Then Marie-Louise von Franz took over. And then Tony's relation with Jung faded a little out, and she was very depressed about losing her very close connection. Here we have her handwriting. Some of the female Jungians, for example, Wheelwright, Jane Wheelwright, she called her cold as ice. And I think it's very clear from her handwriting that's not the case. She's a very warm woman. You see all these curved and forms, and relatively good written and well a good disposition. So it is probably a problem of jealousy from the other Jungfrau. There's written a very fine book about the collaboration of Tony and Sigge Jung. And she was one of the very few persons who loved to be with Jung in his Bollingen, his self-made tower building at the Zurich Sea. Here we have the handwriting of Emma, and it's a very normal, conventional handwriting, harmonic, without any ego signs. She is very adaptive and a good Hausfrau. And as we shall see later on, she developed very, very clear, really. Here we have some of the handwritings just after the broke with Freud. And I called it the frayed Jung. You can see the rhythm is very, very much disturbed here. I think he had, that was the time when he had visions about the coming First World War. And he didn't know that it was a collective unconscious pictures that came into his mind. His first idea was, I'm going to be crazy now. It's my own craziness breaking down. But when he reached the 1914, when the First World War began, then he realized it was not his darkness; it was the whole Europe's darkness coming in his psyche. He had opened doors in his psyche to all the collective unsolved problems. And you can see it in his handwriting. And you also see these sharp things. He had to fight against it with his ego. He couldn't just let it. He couldn't just let all these things overflow him. He knew that the ego was also a very, very significant kind of important factor in this process. So here starts a very, very hard time for Jung. Here we see his Bollingen, where he drew back. He has no career left at that time. He carved in stones, trying with his hands to come to grips with reality, because his whole mind was so full of visions and dark things he couldn't understand. So it's very, very important for him to have hands-on to material things. And at that time, he started a psychological club. And here we have a very important woman in this connection, because this is Edith McCormick. she was a very important person because she financed all the thing. She was stone rich, coming from the McCormick family in US. You know, they owned everything with harvest machines, great machines, and moreover, he was a daughter of Rockefeller. So she came from two very, very rich families, and but you don't find any psychological feeling in that handwriting. She's very angled, and but well, she was accepted because she financed all the circles around Jung at that time. But she was in fact educated as a psychologist, and she she loved to invite her clients into the best shoot in the best hotel in Zurich with golden furnitures and all that. So the young men were very impressed by her, but I don't think they were cured from their problems. And here you see the 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 Jung handwriting from her time. He was criticized being too rough and too clinical in many cases. For example, if a lecture was too boring, he could make a little tent of matches, and he fired them just to tell the lecturer, well, maybe you should give it give it a little more. So he had a lot of things, and you can see this R and G and B. There's a lot of banal forms in it. So here we have the one of the results of his problems, that his shadow is breaking through, and he has a very elementary and robust shadow. Not this this. You see here we have his academic professor handwriting when he is 23 years old, and later on, suddenly his shadow is breaking through, and that made him uneatable for the young pupils. So they criticized him, and he couldn't stand it. So he left the club, and this is one of his top colleagues, Hans Trieb, a very differentiated, almost German spiritual handwriting. He was the man who challenged Jung about these matters, and Jung responded with, "Okay, then I dissolved all this." Yeah, it was very difficult, Jung, at that time. And this is another colleagues opposed to Jung at that time, Alphonse Maeder. He was later known for a famous book called Selbstheilung, also healing by yourself, or something like that. A very intelligent handwriting, you can see. And here is a handwriting of a very important person, namely Ruth Bailey. He met Ruth Bailey, an English nurse, on a boat in his trip to Africa, and there's written a very, very interesting book about the meeting of the Jung and Ruth. It's called. It's written by her nephew, grandnephew, uh, David Bailey, and it's called Jung and the English Woman, and it tells about their relationship. They were not lovers. She was maybe the only one of all these women uh, who was just a friend. All the others was mistresses and women and housefrau and I don't know what. And but she was the good friend who promised Jung to look after him when he was old, or look after Emma Jung if Jung died first. And she kept that promise. And you can see her handwriting is very harmonious and warm and balanced. It's a real good handwriting, I think. And here you have another example of Jung's not so harmonious handwriting. It took many years for Jung to uh, to work through all these matters, leaving Freud and being overwhelmed from all these inner pictures. And here we have Carrie F. Baines. She was a very good American woman who helped with lectures and books, editions and all that. And she later on she translated Yiding, the English version of the Chinese book or oracle book. And here is an English woman, Barbara Hanna. It's a very odd handwriting. I hope you are graphologists, all of you. I don't see
Yes, I
the
think
psychologist in her.
yeah, I think everybody here is graphologist.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't see. She's well, she's a clear person, and uh, but I don't see the warmth, and I don't see the introspection. I don't see the feeling, but a certain distance to things. But well, she had her function in all these matters. And here we come to Emma Jung. I think it's a wonderful handwriting, and in fact, she has at that time we are in the 14th of late. Yeah, I think it's after the war. I think that she is more developed than any of the other female uh, companions. It's a very fine elasticity in the strokes, a good balance written. The space is harmonious and everything. The space and the written things are in a picture balance. I think this is a very fine example of a fully matured woman. And at that time, Tony Wolff were not longer his second wife. So I think this has maybe also influenced of Emma's development. This is Richard Wilhelm. He was the sinologue who translated all the classic Chinese great books, Yiding and Tao Te Ching and all these books, and And you see he's a very clear and modest person. And in fact, I think he came with a book called The Golden Flower, something like that. It was a Chinese book about the golden flower. It was a sort of meditation technique. And Jung recognized that it was practical identical with the alchemical procedures. So this led Jung in the direction of the alchemist doctors. Here you see his handwriting when he's in his alchemical study chamber. It's very seldom that you see Jung writing almost vertical. And here you see one of his pictures. He made the so-called Red Book with a lot of paintings about his inner harmony. At that time, his harmony is breaking through because the archetype of the self is breaking through, and all his chaos is in these years is collected in a new harmonious structure. It was very, very important for Jung to perceive all these archetypal ordering archetypes, which rescued his mental life. And at that time, Tony Wolff vanished as a collaborator because she was very afraid that Jung's renommee would be harmed by all this dark stuff as alchemy. And maybe she was also a little concerned about her own reputation. So, but Marie-Louise von Franz, a young student, became Jung's new collaborator. She was a clear thinking type. And but he is a very, very complicated person. You see her handwriting here. You see, I think it's a very complicated handwriting. There's a depression. There's not a very good written. And these unelastical strokes, a lot of arcades. I don't see the openness and I mean the introspective openness. I don't see that. But later on, the handwriting is better. Here we see a lot more self-confidence. But I think there's something almost autistic in his handwriting from 35. Here we have another important collaborator to Jung, namely Erich Neumann. And this is a very clear handwriting with good disposition, good space between words. Maybe a little lonely man. Jung called him a rare bird, and he was also a very complicated man. He was Jew, and he has written a lot of very important books. But he has soft ankles. He is known for his very unusual introspection and phenomenological insights. He wrote a book which made a lot of problems in Zurich. he called it analytical psychology and new ethics. And this provokes the whole staff of Jungian psychologists in Zurich. They wouldn't hear about new ethic. But Neumann was, the context for Neumann was that he was very influenced about the Nazi aggression to the Jews. In fact, Neumann had to flew from Berlin in 1933, I think, after the Gestapo was very violent to his father. He died of all the violence. I don't know exactly how it was, but he died. And then Neumann, he flew to Tel Aviv, and from there he has written a lot of books. He's very known for the work called Origins and History of Consciousness, a very big book. The Origin and History of Consciousness. In fact, he had a very long correspondence with Jung, and they didn't agree about the Jews. The only thing they agreed about was that the Jews were intuitive of type. That was a dominant type. But Jung had some very unlucky formulations about the Jews. He said that, for example, he said that the development gradient in the Germans are bigger, larger than the Jews. And what it was misunderstood as a sort of high evaluation of the Germans. But what Jung meant was that the Jews had lived outside Israel and adapted to other cultures in so many years that they had developed much more than the Germans. So the Germans, the potential of development for the Germans was bigger because they hadn't developed. But it was misunderstood, and even Neumann misunderstood that, and he never forgave Jung these remarks. Neumann, he died very early, with 55 years old of kidney cancer, I think. But you can see it's a very clear handwriting, a good form. And he didn't feel at home in Israel either. He called the new Israelis as too material and too technical and entrepreneurial and so on. So the only real home for Neumann was the new August meetings which Jung arranged in Iranos, which was a house in Ascona in the south of Switzerland. It's still active, the Iranos. It gathered a lot of anthropologists and experts in mythology and religion history and so on. And they had lectures the whole August. And Jung was a very popular man in this connection. Here you see the house. I have been there. I was there in an Iranos meeting in 1991 about reading, because I have translated reading. And here you see everyone gathered in the pauses around Jung. Here we have Jung, and here all the participants. And everyone wanted to hear what Jung had to say about it. But you had to be cautious because you could easily fall down here. One of the participants in these Eranos meetings was Max Pulver, as you know, the graphologist Max Pulver. Here you have his handwriting as a young man. As you can see, it's a very form. There's a lot of form energy in this handwriting. Well, here we have another Jung's very close collaborators from Iran.
Sorry, can I just interrupt 1 second? In the previous one, I was trying to translate it. Can you say your Martin Cell diary or something or other?
You go here?
On the Max Pulver one, it's 1, 2, 3, 4th line down. It says something, I think, Martin Cell diary.
Dafür multiple darf mein Arbeit, nun Arbeit.
To work something or other.
Well, I think it is Schweizerdeutsch. It's a Schweizerdeutsch. It's not German.
Okay. It's just that I used to live at Martinsell, and I just thought, oh,
yes. But I see there's some German words, but they're not real German. I think it is Schweizerdeutsch, and he was a Swiss, Max Pulver, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yes.
Yeah. I have. He has written wonderful books about handwriting and criminology also, and handwriting and talents, and he's a very deep, introspective graphologist.
I'm sorry to have interrupted, Jens. Sorry.
No, you are very welcome. And here we have Victor White. He was a priest, and a priest. He was very much younger than Jung, and he visited Jung in Bolingen, and they discussed a lot of the image of God. That was a main theme, and they didn't agree because Jung. It was a lot of things, but there's the theme called it's an old Christian theme about the good is not real. The good is absence of sorry. The evil is not have no real existence. It's absence of the good, and that provoked. It's called in Latin. It's called privatio boni. That's the church wording for this, and that provoked Jung, because Jung had the idea that the evil has somehow its own existence. So he was a sort of dualist, like the Manichaeists, and they couldn't agree, but they respected each other, and they visited us in the hospital when there were problems. When Jung had his heart attack, Victor White visited him, and when Victor White once had an accident with his scooter, it was Jung's turn to visit him in the hospital. And well, it's very interesting to see these heart massive strokes in this priest. Behind the very spiritual and Christian foreground, this man has a lot of Leidenschaft and passions. I think I don't think he allowed these passions to live, but you can see he had them. He had them. Oh, this is not good. So, well, a little tragic here. This is Wolfgang Pauli, the Nobel Prize taker, the physicist, and Jung had a lot of work with him. They worked about the concept of synchronicity. Pauli and Jung understood each other in that respect. Pauli's handwriting is quite normal. If you expect a very complicated handwriting from a Nobel Prize taker, you will be disappointed because it's really normal. Here we have an English close collaborator to Jung, namely Gerhard Adler from London. He collected all the letters, all the correspondence of Jung, and it's published in two very large volumes, and it's very interesting to read all the letters from Jung's 80 years. It's a good handwriting. It's a little narrow, but there's a fullness and warmth in the handwriting. So I think the narrowness is only a compensation to his very warm and feeling facilities. He had to control himself, not to let it go too far. I met him once in London in 74 or 5, I think. And here we have one of Jung's secretaries. In fact, they married food. In fact, she was a painter. And you see the artist in her handwriting. And here we have the famous Aniela Jaffe. She was a lady who collected all the memories of Jung, and he came out in the book of the memories reflection. Memory, dreams, and reflections is called. But I think this handwriting is complicated because there's too much space between a rather warm garland handwriting. It's like islands swimming in the great ocean. So she was Jude, and I think she was very lonely in Switzerland. She came from Germany, and Jung, in fact, invited Jews from German to free treatment if they came to Zurich. I know that I have been told that her handwriting is this is not representative, but it has not been possible to find handwriting from after his her late time. I think she died in 91. And this is from the Second World War. And here's a famous Yolande Jacobi, which were one of the extroverted women in the circle. And I met her to some lectures in the 70s. Before she died, I followed some lectures in 71, and she almost spoke about anxiety. From where come the anxieties? And I think she was a little afraid of dying, I think, at the time. She was not the other colleagues. didn't respect her because she was too. They called her the locomotive. She was too active and extroverted, and she made a lot of noise. And but on the other hand, she was the woman who grounded the Jung Institute because she had the ability to contact all the authorities about how are you making a school, how you are making an education, all that stuff. All the introverted Jungians didn't know about the conditions for that, but Jacobi did. So in the end, she was also in the inner circles. Here we have her. And Mary Mellon was another American woman with a lot of money. She and her man Paul, they in fact wrote to Jung and said, "We have so many money, we don't know how to use them. Have you any propositions?" So they spend a lot of money to Bollingen Press, and all the collected works of Jung is more or less financed from the Mellon family. And here you have the late Jung, and here you see his very, very harmonious handwriting. There's some of the professor coming back again, but in a more broad manner and more harmonious and good written. Is from 51, so he's at that time he is 74 or 5, I think. And in his very old days, he looks like this, and here's his handwriting from the very last year. It's fantastic that it's a fantastic, broad, rather outgoing written in this handwriting. And I think it's about his second or third function. It could be the woman, the author who wrote the book about Tony Wolff and Jung, the collaboration. Her name is Healy. She has a chapter where she says that all these ideas of Jung being an intuitive thinking type is false. She says this is a proof that he was an outgoing, extroverted feeling type. She has totally misunderstood that this helping function, that he has integrated his helping function in. So it's not his main function, as she thinks. But it's a very good example that an old man can be dynamic and still with a flow of spirituality and largeness. And this is a young man's handwriting. So he died as a young man and started as a professor, you could say. So this was a short overview. And now you have I would like to hear your comments, if you have one.
Thank you, Jens. I wanted to let everyone know we're at the top of the hour, but I know you said you'd be fine to be another half hour, which
Yeah, if
I
you like.
commonly am open, and we're all aware of that. But just if anyone needed to go, I wanted to let you know. But we're going to continue here with the questions and everything.
I have a question. With him being such a womanizer, and looking at all their handwritings compared to his wife, do you think that he was threatened by his wife because she was so very intelligent? And so, I mean, the others were too, but you know, in that she was superior to them.
I don't think he was provoked by her. She in the beginning, she was it was a time when a woman, she had to to rule the house, and she went a mother for 5 children. That was her place, and Jung was old-fashioned also. So at that time, okay, they accepted this is the rules. But after some years, when the children was 7, 8, 9, 10 years, uh, Emma began to study mathematics, language. She was educated as psychotherapist also. So slowly, she came out of the shadow of Jung, and went to be a partner. But naturally, Sony was also there. But sometimes they traveled all three together, and they make a call it a arrangement, tour de trois.
Threesome.
What?
We call it a threesome.
A threesome, yes.
Yes.
Well, it's very complicated, and there's a lot of anecdotes about it. Sometimes Emma was very, very sad about it. We haven't the time to mention all these anecdotes, but in the end, when Tony died, Jung had not the courage to participate in the funeral, but Emma did, and according to I don't know, it was Barbara Hanna. According to her, Emma said that Tony could do something for my husband Jung, that I couldn't. What it was, I don't know what, but I think the address was the years about 1913 to 15, where all these fantasies came in. Emma didn't understood that at that time. She was a mother and had to look for her very young boys and girls. And Tony understood Jung at that time. That was a reason, and maybe Emma meant that was the things that Tony could give, which she couldn't. Maybe it could also be maybe some eventual some sexual thing. I don't know.
Thank you.
Jens, can I say I've put a note on the notes page. I think it would be fantastic if you could actually give a talk on handwriting and Jung at the CG Jung Club in London. I've tried, but I don't have the name like you do, and I definitely don't have a book on Jung to my name. But it would be superb to actually try and get the handwriting side over to the Jung Club, because I believe he was invested in it anyway, wasn't he?
You mean something, a presentation like this one? Or?
Yes. Well, yeah, but the handwriting and how it is impacted by Jung. So, all the different aspects of his theories and things like that, how it could be seen in handwriting. So the shadow, for instance, and stuff like this.
Yeah, so more going in depth with Jung's own handwriting and not so much with his circle.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
You mean that I should go more in depth with Jung's own handwriting?
Not necessarily, but other people's writing, but show the CG Jung Club how handwriting is impacted by a number of Jung's theories.
Yes, okay.
Because in London, they definitely haven't accepted handwriting analysis.
Yeah. You mean to go in depth with the typology also?
Yes, but how
okay.
it's shown in handwriting. So yes.
Yeah, okay. Also, the most I have learned about typology and handwriting is come from the French graphologist Well, but I could make. You mean a Zoom meeting or?
Yes, well, if you contact the Jung Club in London, I've put the details there on the letters
Yeah.
page.
Yeah. If,
You'll be able to contact them and say, look, I do this.
Yeah. If Victor, if you send out my email, Victor.
You could put it
Hello,
in.
Sorry.
Victor.
Yes.
Hi, Victor.
So
Can you send my email to Christina Strang?
yes,
Can we just put it in the chat?
yes.
It's already in the chat, Sheila. I
Okay,
put
it's
it there.
already in chat.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Jens,
you can
I'll put
invite
Jens
me.
in there. Just a second.
You can invite me via the email,
Yeah.
and then we can discuss the format of the meeting.
Yeah, you'd need to discuss that with them, but yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Jens. I would just like to know if you have studied Jung during his so-called schizophrenic or psychotic periods, because it
Yes.
appears that his writing goes from being coherent at times to being very disturbed.
Yes. And you. Yeah, here we have it. I think this is it's almost psychotic. I have a lot of these handwritings, but he's fighting for his mental health here. He was very provoked, and I think the very strong connection here is probably one of the things which rescued him. Because he has a long-term goal for him. He knew somehow that he had to continue, cost what it wouldn't. He offered everything to go through. So this was very cool. A lot of courage in that. But he was very close to be met here.
Is there anything to be gained from looking at his parents' writing in comparison with his own?
I don't have the handwriting of his parents. His mother was, we know that Jung's mother was a mediumistic person. She had a very good intuition about and a very good contact with the unconscious. And the father was a priest, but according to Jung, he has lost his faith. His faith. But as you know, Jung evolved his own sort of God image, his own vision about religion and the universe. He said that God is certainly the all-knowing instance in the world, the unconscious and the conscious, the collective unconscious. This is in a way God, conscious of everything except one important thing, namely not conscious about himself. This was a very, very shocking note to, for example, Victor White. So Jung evolved the concept of religion that the man being conscious was the only chance for God to being conscious about his own work, because God in itself is all-knowing except of himself. So the new vision of religion in Jung is that man has a task to be the God consciousness of himself. We, when we evolve our consciousness, will be conscious about God's work. Can you follow that?
I remember reading something from Jacob Bohm, who also believed that God could be found in the unconscious. And I remember Max Pulver in his book referencing Bohm's handwriting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know his handwriting. But yeah, that was what came out of his almost psychotic periods. He developed his very clear vision of God and consciousness. And the priest couldn't follow him. Victor White couldn't follow me. Victor White have written a wonderful book about God and the unconscious. But he missed the points of Jung. Well, now we are going to out of graphology, I think.
Jens, I was curious if you knew how, like, about the relationship between Jung and Pulver. I had heard that they both worked at that psychiatric
I beg your pardon, the Jung and who?
and Pulver, Max Pulver.
Max Pulver.
Yeah. They, I
The
understood they were-
graphologist, you mean?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
graph.
okay. I don't think they had a very narrow relationship.
Mhm.
Maybe something I haven't seen some. Yes, I think I've seen one or two letters. And they met in Iranus, but I don't think they had a very close relationship.
Okay. Yeah.
It would seem perhaps that there would be a connection via the concept of ambivalence, because I know that Pulver wrote extensively on that topic. And of course, Jung was interested in the wholeness of the self, which is how the polarity gets reconciled.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm also thinking in terms of gnosis and how perhaps Jung was influenced by this whole concept of light and dark, sort of an emanation theory of the soul.
Certainly, certainly. He was very. He read a lot of books from you name it, Manichaeism, and he one of his very close collaborators was the Kereni and Eliade, the great mythologists. Kereni is known for his insights in Greek mythology, and Eliade from yes, every myth.
I think he wrote an encyclopedia of religion that was very voluminous.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So Anthony, that period he was working on the Red Book during that period. He was
Exactly. The Shamdasani.
Yeah.
The Red Book. Yeah. I haven't read it. Everyone has read it.
I haven't either. I heard that book was unpublished for many years, and then it was discovered all of a sudden.
Yeah. You know, Jung said once, he said, I'm happy that I'm not a Jungian. I'm C.G. Jung. And that's the reason why I hadn't read the Red Book as everyone else, because I'm a little afraid that I'll miss my own my own visions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did many German people come to Switzerland looking for a help during World War II, trying to cope with what was going on there?
I beg your pardon?
Did many people from Germany come to him for counseling because they were
Yeah.
trying to cope with what was going on in Germany?
Yes, Jung invited the Germans because Jung was president of the European Psychological Corporation, which was seated in Germany. But in the 30s, it was very difficult for Jung to hold everything together because the Nazis were very aggressive to the sort of the European mind in all this, and just to rescue his own reputation, Jung, and to rescue the German psychologist, he offered a lot of them to come to Zurich, and he gave a lot of them education without money between them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jens, I would like to order a copy of your book on Jung. How would
Okay.
I do so?
Do you say you send your address to my mail?
Okay.
If you have my email,
I
Uh,
put the email in the chat.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
His email is
Oh,
in the chat.
Okay. So
Okay.
just send me your address, and I'll send you the bill.
Yes. Okay.
There was one quote attributed to Jung I especially liked, and people were asking him about particulars of theory and such, and he said, "I have no dogma. I'm still working it out." And he probably went through his whole life with that position.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He has said that many times, and in fact, there is no real therapeutic theory in the analytical psychology. It's much about the meeting between two people, and Jung was criticized very much for his own therapeutic sessions. He spoke. He was not listening very much. He talked and talked, and it provoked a lot of people. For example, Herbert, one of the great American psychologists. Okay, I forgot his name. A lot of people accused Jung of that, and many said that Tony Wolff was a better therapist.
Yeah.
My understanding is part of the falling out between Freud and Jung is that Freud emphasized sexuality much more than Jung, and Jung emphasized more of mysticism and alchemy.
Yeah, you could say so, but the break was not about mysticism. The break was about the quality unconscious. Jung recognized sexuality as well as Adler's power complexes and all that, and all about the shadow is very close to Freud's personal unconscious. But the crucial point was that Freud couldn't accept that the whole race, the whole community of people had a common unconscious. That was too much for him, and he spoke about the black flute of mysticism. I think I can, yeah. But if you see his handwriting, he's already swimming in the black flute himself.
It's a stark contrast because Jung, to me, his writing has so much more of an Apollonian quality to it, whereas Freud, it's an id writing. It's all that energy from the unconscious.
That's right. And you see the Apollonian, the Apollonistic temperament in Jung. You see it here. This is very much Apollon. And here you have the Dionysus in the woman, and the conflict between the Apollonian and the Dionysic aspect of life was a main theme in Jung for many, many years. And that's one of the reasons why he read Nietzsche so much, because it was also a problem in Nietzsche. Jung had held a famous seminar about Zarathustra. I think it can be bought as a book now.
I had heard that Freud had said that Nietzsche had possessed greater knowledge, greater self-knowledge than any person. And I was always impressed by that, because how extensively psychoanalysts are indebted to Nietzsche as a thinker.
Yeah. I have read also Sprach Zarathustra when I was young, but I have read too little of Nietzsche to speak about him. Yeah. This is Healy, the book. I would recommend it, but not her theory about Jung's typology.
Okay.
The best biography, I think, it's Bear. Bearrd.
Here it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll have to tell you, it's really big.
Yeah.
It helped me, Jens, to have your more succinct outline of his life, and then I can go back and it makes sense.
Yes.
Because
Okay.
I forget. By the
Yeah.
time I get deep into the book, I forget about the beginning.
It's quite incredible what she has done of details and letters and
Yeah.
interviews. I think I can't understand how she could collect and held everything together. It's a fantastic book.
It's authoritative. Jens, that reminds me, I had a question about I kind of, one of my careers was in library and working with archival research and stuff like that. I'm very aware of, I mean, what you put together is that it's not like something you can just look up on the internet. Most of these archives are like boxes that are collections. So would you talk a little bit about, how you gathered this? What was
Yeah, okay.
involved in
Yeah,
gathering and finding
well,
handwriting?
yeah, yes, okay. So you go to the archives, and in Zurich, there's a big archive, and you have to pay for a lot of things, and you have to and not you're not allowed to publish anything. It's free to research, but you don't have to post it. But I bought a lot of handwritings. It costs money, and the other ones you have to go to the heirs to get permission. But it is impossible with all these 50, 80 people to find all the people around the world. So you have to limit yourself to 3 or 4 lines, which is which is allowed to print without permission. And what I would here was to show that we have all these biographies, and we have the portraits of, for example, Baird and Healy and all the others. But I noticed that maybe they have more or less the same picture of people, and it struck me that graphology has a chance to give another angle to all this. So the motivation for this work was to try to use graphology to the verification, or the opposite, modification of the traditional portraits of Jung in the Circle. And in fact, a lot of things, I have got a lot of feedbacks from people in Zurich who knew many of these people and said, well, that's how they were. And another people are, for example, impressed that Toni Wolff was much more a warm woman that they had thought of. And most of the people are impressed of the maturity of Emma Jung, for example. So this study gave a lot of corrections to some of the traditional biographical pictures, and that was my project.
Yeah.
If I may ask, Jens, how did you become interested in graphology?
Yes, okay. I had a good friend in my gymnasium, and a very odd man. He was later a professor in philosophy. But we got friends, and we have the habit to find odd books and give them to each other. And one day he gave me Ludwig Clarke's handwriting book. He had found it in a bookshelf somewhere. And then I got Annelise Garde's Danish books about graphology, and which I was only 16 or 17 years at that time. And I wrote to Annelise Garde, and I said that there was something about pressure in the handwriting. I found her description, or her considerations to not. I had to complete with something. Then she invited me to visit her, and after some time, she said, "Okay, I will educate you for free because you have talent." So I was only 17 or 18 years old at the time. So therefore, I can say I'm the most experienced Danish graphologist. She
Wow.
was a very, very, when things were wrong, she said it directly, and many of the female students were afraid of her. I'll give you an example. At that time, there was no internet. So when I got a handwriting and took it home, and then I made an analysis, and I sent it by post. And then we agreed about a meeting, and I have a copy, and she had a copy, and then I read it for her, and suddenly she laughed and laughed and laughed. I think, what's going on? It was very, very, I know. And then she stopped. I said, "What's going on? Why are you laughing?" And she said to me, "Don't you hear it? No? Oh, you are not speaking of this person. You are speaking about yourself." So I have done the worst sin of all, namely projecting my own psychology into a client.
Wow.
This was the worst. And he laughed and laughed. Okay, this was a hard way to learning, namely to be laughed out, and that was the reason why some of the more sensitive female students. They couldn't stand her, but she was very gifted. Someday I will show her handwriting. She has a wonderful handwriting, very gifted person. So that's the way I came in. But I studied already psychology, and I studied engineering also. So I had to postpone graphology for some years, and then I took it up again. So that's the history about that.
I'm not really familiar with the Danish school of graphology. I'm able to read German, even though I don't speak the language. But I'm wondering, is the Danish graphology primarily derived from the German school, or is it? Can you
exactly the Danish line is the German line?
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I wanted to just, Jens, I wanted to just let everyone know here, I'm very interested, especially as I've been reading the book. I've been thinking about kind of continuing, maybe beginning in November or something like that, to have something monthly, basically going over the handwriting samples like you did, but there's a lot there, and to be able to kind of have like a little study group going on related to this. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. I'm thinking about how that might work, kind of a little more than a book, than the book. It's really more about maybe one or two handwritings at a time, over a period of time. I'll figure it out, but I just wanted to kind of throw that out there while everybody was just aware that even reading through, there's a lot in this. You could spend a good hour on each handwriting sample. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? We're oh, we went past the 30 minutes. Jens, it's about 40 after the hour, just a couple minutes. So any last minute?
Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. It was so educational for us and exciting to hear you talk about, well, I met him or I met her, and I thought, oh my goodness, we read about these people, but here is a person that was actually in contact with them. It's been so interesting. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, this was a wonderful talk. I was impressed with how many original handwriting samples you were able to obtain, many of which I had not seen.
Yes, it's a really a task to go into the Zurich Library, because it's very it's very modern, organized, with a lot of IT procedures and so on. You really have to study all these things as a researcher, because it's created for young people, I will say. I as a super senior, it was very hard for me to go through all these things, but they have a lot of handwritings. I think there's about 300 handwritings of Jung himself.
Wow. Very good.
Well, as president of AHAF, I want to particularly thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm so glad that we have this opportunity.
Thank you.
Yes.
Jens, were you speaking about the samples and kind of like you can't necessarily publish the whole thing, but were you able as a researcher to have a copy of it, to be studying it, or did you need to leave them there in the archive, in the
You mean uh,
Like,
well, the first thing I did with the libraries was to buy PDFs from the handwritings.
okay,
That was not so
I see.
costly. I think it was about one Swiss franc per
Uh-huh.
page or something like that.
Okay.
But when I should publish a book, then you have to buy new photos
Mhm.
from the archive, and that is very expensive.
Yeah, yeah. I was wondering about that because I was wondering about if as a research thing for a study group to be able
Yeah.
to, you know, how to get a hold of that. But we can talk about that.
I think most of the PDFs are free now,
Uh-huh.
but for 2 or 3 years ago when I started, it cost a little. Everyone, I think I have about 400 pages
Oh,
of handwritings, and but I only ordered 30 of the very expensive handwritings to the book,
mm-hmm.
and I had to say I got some funding for this book from the company called Velux, you know, the window company Velux. They gave me some money for this project.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for listening.
Oh.
And, I hope my English was not too bad.
No.
Great.
Very
It was
clear.
great.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
I,
more. I must say I'm more. I'm more acquainted with speaking German.
oh,
You spoke very clearly, Jens.
Okay. Thank
It
you.
yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so we'll be meeting. Well, I wanted to let everyone know that next week, next Thursday, Sheila Lowe will be the guest speaker for The Power of the Pen, looking at the chapter, that essay that's on let me get that. The on her chapter there. Let's see. Michael Ordacci, an analysis of his handwriting. That's like a kind of an example of a handwriting analysis report and discussions around how, you know, styles like that. And then the following Thursday, we can be having more discussion on the type and a lot to talk about now. So just to know that we will be following up on this
Okay.
the fourth Thursday of this month.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
thank you.
Yeah, let's see. I will stop the recording.
Bye bye.